Hello and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to give a presentation about Kaizen. As always, you can find the PowerPoint file of this presentation without my video in the description of this video, and you can download it if you need it for any reason. So Kaizen is a philosophy before everything else. And we should not just look at it as a simple tool without any depth. In contrast, we should try to grasp a deep philosophical understanding of this concept and its roots to be able to implement it more successfully. Kaizen means continuous improvement in personal life, social life, working life. But when it is applied to workplace, Kaizen means continuing improvement involving everyone, managers and workers, and so on. Continually improve all business function or processes and involves every employee from the top level to the assembly line workers. It had been applied in healthcare, psychotherapy, life coaching, government, banking, and several other areas. It is not just for manufacturing line. It is not just for the Toyota production line. It can apply to various industries and various scenes. Originally a Buddhist term, Kaizen comes from the words renew the heart and make it good. Kai means change, Zen means good. There are two characters. These are Chinese characters which are adopted by the Japanese as well, but with different pronunciation and sometimes with different meanings. Now, the first word Kai, if we want to go to the root of this word, it is consisted of two parts. There is a first character here. Actually, these are both together, but this character in Chinese, it is zi. It means you, yourself, and oneself. And this part means to whip. To whip yourself in order to slash yourself, in order to motivate yourself, not in a bad way of meaning. And this character is also consisted of two parts. One part means cattle, one part means sacrifice. So it has a history behind it, but basically to look at both of them at the same time, Kaizen means to change for better, a philosophy for progress and prosperity. It should be implemented every day to everybody everywhere. It's a combination of self-discipline and commitment, and it is done at every level, but starts by managers. I mean, the idea, the will, the understanding that there is a need to improve should come from managers, and then it should be implemented and spread to all levels of the organization. If we want to briefly talk about the history of a Kaizen, we can consider it as a combination of type of cooperation between the Americans and Japanese. In the years of Second World War in the America, there was a lot of pressure to produce warfares and industrial products, which because America was in the Second World War. And some scientists and some industrialists there started to develop a concept named training during working. It means that there was no extra time to extract the workers or employees from the workplace and send them to a class for example, 1 month. There was no time for this. They should be trained while they were working. And the idea was to improve the quality and to teach them new skills. So there were two gentlemen involved with this issue. One of them was Mr. Homer Sarson, and the other one, which might be more famous for you, was Mr. William Edwards Deming. And of course, when United States invaded Japan, when the Americans in 1945, when they entered to Japan, they decided to help the Japanese to rebuild their industry and to make some improvements. Of course, also many issues happens, for example, over the corporations which were named Zaibatsu. It's a long history. But this type of philosophy from the American side was somewhere mixed with the region, the beliefs, and the way of working and the commitment of Japanese. And it was in that point that it flowered and it changed to something which was called Kaizen. So it was not that we are not able to say it was done by Japanese or by Americans. It was a result of a series of events in its historical context. But later on, many studies and many principles of quality control was taught by the gentleman on the right, Mr. Edward Deming, to Japanese, and Japanese, of course, have their own methods. And as a result of this combination, a fruitful industrial era emerged in Japan. The principle in Kaizen implementation are, okay, I just read some of them. Human resource are the most important company asset. Improvement must be based on a statistical and quantitative evaluation of process performance. You know that Edward Deming was originally an statistician, so he put a lot of emphasis on measuring and correcting the errors through a statistical methods. It means that if you find a problem, if you rectify it, you should always measure how much was the improvement and many other things which are discussed in his books. All members of an organization need to be trained in a manner to support this idea structure. Resources, measurements, rewards, and incentives all need to be aligned to and working with the Kaizen structure of ideas. It should be spreaded thoroughly in the organization, and the people who are executing it, which would be all of the members of the organization, should have an equal understanding. Otherwise, if there is if there is unequilibrium in this execution, there might some problems stem from it in the later phases. Kaizen is a daily process, the purpose of which goes beyond simple productivity improvements. It is also a process that, when done correctly, eliminates overly hard work, teaches people how to perform experiments on their work using the scientific method, and how to learn to spot and eliminate waste in business processes. The format for Kaizen can be individual, suggestion system, a small group, large group. Anybody can come forward and propose an idea for improvement. The people who are working on one product, on one part of the production line, they can make a small group and propose their ideas. These should be all classified and decided in advance and then be announced to the team. So there would be no bewilderment or disarray. Masaaki Imai made the term famous in his book Kaizen, the key to Japan's competitive success. That was where the term Kaizen really emerged. And also Professor Iwao Kobayashi, he published the book The 20 Keys. He also discussed an step-by-step improvement framework, which means Kaizen in its essence. Kaizen is core to lean manufacturing, which is, you might heard of it, or the Toyota way. So Kaizen is the core. How Kaizen works? Based on the belief that everything can be improved and nothing is a status quo, nothing is stable and impossible to change. It involves identifying issues and opportunities, creating solutions and rolling them out, and then cycling through. Kaizen methodology includes making changes and monitoring results, then adjusting. Large-scale pre-planning and extensive project scheduling are replaced by smaller experiments which can be rapidly adapted as new improvements are suggested. This is a cycle, Kaizen cycle for continuous improvement. Get employees involved, find problems, create a solution, test the solution, analyze the result, measuring, a statistical approach, and standardize and repeat. Daily base. Just two very simple examples of Kaizen Uh, you can see that's for example, a workshop. They have managed and organized all of the devices and tools in a way which is most efficient and effective. There is no need to search for the devices. All of the things are sorted out in a certain way. And another really simple example on the down below right side, before after, it is organizing. And another complicated example is the production line. And the line is totally arranged based on the Kaizen approach. Types of Kaizen events. So widespread cultural change, events to kickstart Kaizen efforts or focus on a specific set of problems have evolved. For example, in the West, there are sometimes rush to have quick changes to achieve short-term goal, and then they give some names to this kind of Kaizen events: Kaizen Blitz, Kaizen Burst, Kaizen Workshop. But I would say that this type of approach, quick change, short-term goal, somehow they are in contrast to the soul of Kaizen meaning. But anyway, I just wanted to mention it. If you heard the term Kaizen Blitz, you would know what it is. In addition, this can rely on various tools or focus on a specific area, such as 5S, total productive maintenance, and value streaming mapping. Now, Kaizen 5S framework is a tool in the process of moving toward a Kaizen-oriented line or a Kaizen-oriented workshop or whatever. And there are some extensive explanations of 5S framework. I'm not going through it now or in this presentation. I just wanted you to know that 5S framework is also part of implementing the Kaizen. A 5S framework is a critical part of the Kaizen system and establishes an ideal physical workplace. The 5S's focus on creating visual order, organization, cleanliness, and standardization to improve profitability, efficiency, service, and safety. And when we say 5S, it stands for shine, standardize, sustain, sort, set in order. And you can find other explanations, other videos, other material on 5S easily on the internet, or some books are published on this subject. But now let's go to 10 principles of Kaizen. The Kaizen method follows 10 specific principles which are described below. So just I would read some of them. If something is wrong, correct it. Improve everything continuously. Abolish old traditional concepts if they are useless. Empower everyone to take part in problem solving. Be economical. Before making decisions, ask why 5 times. Remember that improvement has no limits, never stop trying to improve, and so on. These are the 10 principles. And we have something called PDSA, plan, do, study, act. And by repeating this cycle, you would have CI, continuous improvement. Under the Kaizen umbrella, there are some concepts which you might have heard, many of them. All of them are under the Kaizen idea: automation, robotics, customer orientation, Kanban carts, quality improvement, zero defects. These are all part of Kaizen. Now we have 3 important concepts here: Muda, Mura, Muri, the total production system, and later on the concept of lean production was developed around eliminating the 3 types of deviations that shows inefficient allocation of resources. So these are 3 deviations, and they are named Muda, means waste, Mura, unevenness, and Muri, overburden. And I'm going to explain all of these 3. First, let's start by Muda. Muda means wastefulness, uselessness, and futility, which is contracting value addition. There are 2 types of Muda. Type 1, it does not necessarily add any value, but it is required by the final customer. For example, a production line inspection and safety testing does not directly add to the value of your product, but it is required. It gives some assurances. So it is muda, but it is, we can say it is good muda. But the type 2 includes non-value added activities in the processes, and these activities are unnecessary for the customer. So it is the muda type 2 which have to be eliminated. Now, there are 7 categories of waste under muda type 2. And because this is very important, I'm going to read all of them. Transport, excess movement of product in a production line, you have to eliminate that. Inventory, stocks of goods and raw materials, if excessive, you have to get rid of it. Motion, it means excess movement of machine or people during the production, have to be eliminated. Waiting, overproduction, overprocessing, and defects. Getting to Mura. Mura means unevenness, non-uniformity, and irregularity. Mura is the reason for the existence of any of the 7 wastes which we just discussed. In other words, Mura drives and leads to Muda. Okay? Now, this is an example. For example, if the capacity of one station in the production line is greater than the other station, you will see an accumulation of waste in the form of overproduction, waiting, and so on. And Mura can be avoided through the just-in-time, that is one of the ways, through the Kanban cards, barcodes, and every other concept in this area, which definitely you have seen before. And finally, Muri. Muri means overburden. If a person is doing excessive work beyond his ability. Muri also exists when machines or operators are utilized for more than 100% capability to complete a task or in an unsustainable way. Muri over a period of time can result in employee absenteeism, illness, breakdowns of machines, and other problems. And I will show you a photo which in the best way depicts these 3 concepts. You can see Muri, overburdened, Mura, unevenness, fluctuation, variation. So in the first photo, the truck is carrying more than its real ability, that is Muri. In the second truck, the duties are not divided in a fair way, that is Mura, unevenness. In the third line, Muda means waste. You don't need 3 trucks to carry 6 tons. And the last photo is the best way to carry 6 metric tons. For example, no Muri, no Mura, no Muda. No overburden, no unevenness, no waste. That is what we are trying to get through by implementation of Kaizen. The relation between these 3 are interrelated. Eliminating one of them will affect the other 2. And this some explanation for this. And the real problem words are dynamic, they are not static. We must look at the resulting system from the lens of these 3 concepts. Only by considering the impacts of these 3 and optimizing our production strategy can we develop an efficient, lean system. There are some advantages to Kaizen. Focus on gradual improvement, encourages a scrutiny of processes, inspection needs are lessened, employees' morals grow, teamwork increase, client focus increase, systems are in place to ensure improvements are encouraged, both short and long term. Of course, some disadvantages are also attributed to Kaizen. If the company atmosphere is not really welcoming for this concept, you should go through some kind of cultural modification and inside your company, I mean. And sometimes short-term Kaizen events may create a burst of excitement that is shallow and short-lived, and therefore gets abandoned before long. It would be just a show-off, or something not a show-off, but something which is not sustainable. That's the reason that it was mentioned before in prior slides that Kaizen is everyday practice, everywhere practice, not just a short-term one. I want to mention about one gentleman, Mr. Mulally. He was the person who had a deep belief in Kaizen. He was appointed as the CEO of Ford. Of course, he had prior experience in other companies, including Boeing. And he managed to make Ford, within the period of years, extremely successful company and have it survive from the financial crisis of the late 2000s. He rescued the Ford from bailouts. He said that Kaizen was a better innovation strategy than taking financial assistance from the US government. And instead of promising revolution, Mulally simply stated his strategy was to improve efficiency. After 9 years of incremental improvements, underpinned by the Kaizen-inspired mantra, Mulally took Ford from the brink of bankruptcy to the forefront of the US automotive innovation charge in one of the greatest corporate turnarounds in history, by correctly implementing the Kaizen. This is the gentleman, Mr. Mulally. This is a quotation by Ford. There are no big problems, there are just a lot of little problems. We have to address them daily basis, gradual but continuous improvement. This is from a part of interview which they had with him. He said that people asking about managing the time, but I also respond them that it's important to manage the energy. He talked about the regular meetings which they have with the board to discuss the issues and problems and trying to find solution to them. There is a story that when he first called the managers for the weekly meeting and asked them to report the problems, nobody stand up, nobody wanted to admit that there are some problems, and there was a silence. Finally, one manager stood up and talked about the problems, and within the time it was shown to the managers that if they mention about the issues, there would not be any danger to returning their career. And this became a trend. They try to find the real problems, step by step rectify and correct them. Also, Ford took a practical and realistic approach toward the marketing. They identified the real need of especially American market, American vehicle market, and in a very well interconnected approach, they managed to implement the Kaizen in all areas, in all levels, and as it was mentioned, within a period of time, not immediately. After, for example, 9 years, the company achieved really positive and successful results due to great leadership of Mr. Mulally and due to companionship of the managers who started to believe in him. Now, this is a video from the gentleman, Mr. Masaaki Imai, one of the person who started to use the word Kaizen and make it become popular. I just want to show you some short minutes of this video and invite you to watch it fully. I would put the address of this video in the description of this video as well. So please watch.
Today, I'm going to talk about Kaizen. And Kaizen is a Japanese word which means continual improvement. And we use these Chinese characters. This means Kai, and Kai means change. And Zen means, for the better. So together, Kaizen means continual improvement. At least, it has been common interpretation of the meaning of Kaizen as the continual improvement. But I'm beginning to feel that continual improvement is not a good enough translation because it does not carry forward this tremendous self-discipline and the commitment that everybody has when doing Kaizen. So I now have a new interpretation of the word Kaizen. So I say Kaizen is everyday improvement, everybody improvement, and everywhere improvement. For instance, in some companies, people may have conducted some improvement project, such as Six Sigma, and they have completed some projects
Okay. Uh, as I said, you can find the link to that video in the description, and you will definitely enjoy watching it. These are the sources that I used to prepare this presentation for you. I hope it had been useful for you, and I would see you in my next videos. Thank you very much. Have a nice time.